Hello, I'm Dan Genovese, Director of Consulting at EnerCom, and I'm joined today by Tom Smith, Chief Operating Officer with U.S. Strategic Minerals Exploration. U.S. Strategic Minerals will be presenting 11:15 a.m. Mountain Time. That's Thursday, February 17th at the Energy Venture Investment Summit on the campus of Colorado School of Mines. That's an in-person conference. Tom, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
You bet. I know that we've had some time to get to know each other over the last, say, year and a half, I think it is, here at EnerCom and U.S. Strategic Minerals. Just for those viewers that aren't familiar with you, just give an overview of what U.S. Strategic Minerals Exploration is up to, your technology, and the projects that you guys have queued up.
Thanks, Dan. So, similar to last year, we're a group of about five experienced oil and gas professionals. We all have about 40 years in the oil and gas business, from the land side to the operations, drilling, completions, and I'm pretty strong in geophysics and geology as well. So, one of our founders, probably 3 years ago, I met him, Jim Jones. He had a prospect in Utah in the Paradox Basin, and it was a gas project originally, a natural gas project. Started looking at it, and I said, well, gas just doesn't work right now, and I'm not interested in doing that. And he brought out this idea of these patents that he had just filed and received approval for, and they had to do with locating mineral-rich brines. And so, actually, mining brine is kind of our motto right now, and so we're looking to partner with folks that have a large brine source that let's just say they don't have the rights to it or it's underutilized. They look at it in the case of an oil and gas operator. Typically, produced water is a negative. It costs you to dispose of it and collect it, and you have to, for every barrel of oil, you get 9 barrels or more of water. So it's onerous to oil and gas operators, and I saw that when I was an operator as well. And so it's kind of a new kind of thinking out of the barrel thing, and it's starting to catch on with a lot of our peers in the oil and gas industry. And so we've filed additional patents and trademarks that start bringing into focus the true potential of what we can do by mining brines. And typical brines tend to have a lot of calcium and magnesium ions in them as chlorides, and we can find out really how much of that is from a water analysis is in a given brine. And so if we have, let's say we're in North Dakota and we've got a big water flood going on, it's 100,000 barrels of water moving around a day. And if we identify 10,000 part per million as a calcium ion in that brine, we can calculate how much of that calcium can be consumed and paired up with CO2. So as a carbon capture, take a human caused CO2, either that or out of the air, and actually create a product called calcium carbonate, which is essentially limestone. And so once you create that, you've sequestered a large volume of CO2. You've used a product or a resource that otherwise you would have just re-injected into the ground. You've taken maybe another revenue stream out of that. And so you can actually show economics. And we're trying to commercialize this CO2 capture, this carbon capture idea, instead of just sequestering CO2 under the ground, which is quite expensive and requires a lot of monitoring. We want to actually make a product with it. And that can be aggregate that's used for road and as a supplement to cement in a concrete slurry. So there's a whole plethora of carbon-based products and concrete-based products that can be manufactured and at the same time sequestering CO2 out of the atmosphere.
Yeah. So, and I know you have the first resource there in Utah, but let's focus in on the produced water from an oil and gas company and that CO2 capture piece of it. What type of capitalization do you need, and what type of strategic partner do you need to bring that commercialization online?
Thanks, Dan. A good question. So what we're really looking for is about $2 million. And we also would need, and it doesn't have to be from the same source, but we would need like a partner that has an access to, let's say, an oil and gas producing field with a fairly high water cut. So this may be a stripper field or even a one well field that is producing, 1,000 barrels a day of water. And what we would do is build a size a unit, and this would be a pilot scale, and this would be our first demonstration and validation of our patents and trademarks. And so it's very important to us to do this. Once we accomplish that and show that we can actually take CO2, we'll cryo it and bring it in to the well site. We'll tap into their water, coming off their free water knockouts before they dispose of it or haul it off. We'll actually create calcium carbonate, sequester CO2, run the analysis, put out a white paper on it. And from there, it's essentially a scale up because chemistry is chemistry. It's all about, sizing the equipment for the volume you have. So that is something that's very keen to us. We have a couple ideas where we can do that in North Dakota, very suitable brines up there. So it's just finding an operator and finding someone, wants to be an early adopter that has $2 million to come in, and they will actually get Class A shares in the company for that $2 million.
Yeah, and so how does the calcium carbonate that you guys would produce out of that, how does that stand up against hard rock calcium carbonate that's being mined and used in those industrial processes in that road base as aggregate? How does it stand up against that hard rock economics?
Well, it's all about, how far do you have to move the rock, right? So if you're building a road, you typically see, your limestone mines or your aggregate mines being, and it doesn't always have to be limestone, but located as close as it is to the need for it. And so logistics is big. What we feel we're sitting on a pretty good, CO2 is everywhere. So that's really kind of here and there. But where the calcium ion is present in large quantities is where we want to be. So that's your bigger oil fields with high concentration of calcium. And that's really the key. That's how we focus in on these target areas where we want to start and demonstrate, and then you move out from there.
Yeah, certainly with the new infrastructure bill being passed and the anticipated construction associated with that, roads, bridges, airports, and those types of physical assets, you certainly think that there's going to be higher demand for these products, kind of, over the next or over the foreseeable future for sure. Uh, Give us a little bit of an overview on the second project. Give us an overview of what that brine well will produce, because I think there's an element of critical minerals that can be produced out of that, including some of the lithium extraction, which obviously a domestic supply of that is priority and paramount concern for a lot of people looking to electrify. Um, and then just the cost associated with that and the returns anticipated for an investor.
Okay. So we've been, as I mentioned earlier, my president and founder, Jim Jones, found this prospect in Utah, and it's basically twinning a well that was drilled in the late 90s. And they were drilling under an oil and gas lease. They encountered this heavy brine, 11.4 pound per gallon calcium chloride brine. So it's a very heavy brine. It's super saturated. It seems to have a lot of extent to the resource and pressure at depth at 16,000 feet deep. So we're looking at a $15 million AFE to drill the well, complete it, build storage facilities and loading facilities on the rail and truck. So um, it's a one-off project. It should have good reserves. The return is going to be to the investor on a promoted basis, will be about a 14-month payout. Um, the rate of return is something like 70% based on certain assumptions on how much of this product we can sell. Now we're developing more and more markets for this particular product is used for de-icer. It's the premium de-icer. It is also used for dust control, for mining, and also for road building, for soil stabilization while you're building highways and infrastructure. So it has, and also in oil and gas for drilling. It's a brine drilling fluid. It's heavy. So it has those advantages. We've also developed and filed patents on the use of this particular brine in EGS systems for enhanced geothermal and using it as the process fluid as you inject it in the cold well through the reservoir to the hot well and just make a big circle and pull heat out of it and flash to steam. So it's got some very interesting and unique qualities, and it does have a little bit of lithium in it. So there's another revenue stream we're looking at. So all in all, we think we've got as good a project as far as payout and return as any oil and gas well out there. I don't care if it's in the Permian or up in North Dakota or Wyoming. It's just got great economics.
Yeah, certainly sounds interesting. Certainly sounds like a good opportunity for investment. I want to remind everybody that you can meet with Tom and his team here in Golden, Colorado, Thursday, February 16th and 17th. We'll be kicking off the Energy Venture Investment Summit with a cocktail reception where you'll have the opportunity to, on an informal basis, chat with the presenting companies, including Tom and U.S. Strategic Minerals Exploration. Tom will be presenting at 11:50 a.m. Mountain Time, Thursday, February 17th. I really encourage everybody to register. If you want to reach out to Tom prior to that, above this interview will be publisher's notes, which include my email address. Just drop me a note. Be happy to make that introduction prior to the conference to Tom, or if you're viewing this after, certainly always want to make sure that you connect with Tom and his team, learn more about U.S. strategic minerals exploration. Tom, thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much, Dan. Mind the brine, baby.
Take care.